I'm really, really, really happy to have you. Thank you for really making the time to sit down with me and run down your journey.
Thank
Travel
you.
together, the ups and downs, things that you have been through, the works that you did. We want to tap in all the stories that we are eager to listen to. It's a special privilege for me because I have known you, probably I have known you the longest from all AFSA friends, probably, or 12. Sometimes you think you know a person, but you don't really know the background story. So I'm eagerly looking forward for this interview, particularly for that reason too.
Thank you.
As you know, AFSA, we started the Voice of AFSA newsletter somewhere around 2021. The whole idea was, to just give a platform to spotlight our members. Most of our friends, partners, people in the media keep asking us, you keep saying we're the largest civil society network in Africa, but who are you? So we want to show them the people, the leadership that's driving AFSA, that's driving the social movements in AFSA, in Africa, working for food sovereignty and agroecology in Africa. And I must say that you are one of the vocal spokesperson for AFSA. So it's a huge pleasure to have you on. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start from your early childhood days. Tell us who Maina is, starting from your childhood, and we can start building your story from there.
Thank you very much. So my name is Anne Wanjiko Maina. I was born in Nairobi. I belong to the Generation X. I don't want to reveal my age, but it is above 40. I was born in Nairobi. My father used to work with a power utility firm, the Kenya, and it's still the monopoly in Kenya,
Yeah.
the Kenya Power and Lighting Company. And my mother was a civil servant working with the Ministry of Agriculture. Started working after, because I'm the firstborn, after myself and my sister were born, is when she got a, sorry, I'm recovering
Yes.
from a flu, is when she
Okay.
started for the Ministry of Agriculture. She worked there for over 30 years. My father, I was born in Nairobi, in fact, in one of the public hospitals when it was still very new, Pumwani Hospital, and my father used to say that it was really a top of the range hospital then. Public utilities, public services were then very good. We grew up in an estate that was for people working for the Kenya Power Company. And it was really a very interesting childhood because
Yeah.
I can say I'm a child of not one, and I think that's what makes me able to gel with many communities, is that like our neighbors, we have like over 42 tribes in Kenya. All our neighbors were from different ethnic communities. So we grew up, my mother tried to ensure that we learn Swahili so that we can communicate easily with our friends. And that helped me with my cultural, accepting a lot of the cultural, because one of our neighbors was from the Kisii community, there was one from the Luo. And so that was very interesting. We are 4 children. I'm the firstborn. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. The brother is the thirdborn, and then we have a lastborn sister. And so, being a firstborn and my mother having been
Yeah.
brought up in a village, a lot of responsibility fell on me as a firstborn. I remember like when she was going, I was already maybe around 10, 11, when she was going to give birth to our lastborn. I
You are
remember
the one who's yes.
that evening, she told me to help her wash the clothes because tomorrow she might go to hospital. I think
Wow.
later when we were reflecting, she told me she was already in labor. She was just waiting for my father. And so we washed the clothes and she told me, hang these clothes in the morning. And so I grew up taking care. My sister and I just have 1 year age gap. but we grew up taking care of our children. The school was not far where we were going. I went to Donholm Primary School,
Mm-hmm.
one of those public schools. Then there were not many private schools, and it was one of the best schools in the country. So would walk in the morning to school. It was maybe about 2.5 kilometers or slightly more
Yeah.
to school, and maybe sometimes come back for lunch or carry food and then come back in the evening. Um, uh, so growing up after primary school, I managed to go to one of the top schools in Kenya. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Precious Blood Secondary School, Riruta.
Yeah.
Uh, it wasn't very, it was one of the good schools, but the year that we went into Form 1 is the year the school topped. And it was the first time a girls' school was topping exams countrywide. And
Yeah.
that gave me a lot of motivation to work hard because I'm in now one of the top schools in the country.
Yeah.
And already the the class that did the exams when we were in Form 1, in Form 4, they topped the country. From then, I think the other classes were top 5, but now when we became candidates, we were again
Yeah.
top of the school. And in fact, the best student in the country was a girl from our class. She's now, I think, a doctor in the US.
Wow.
So that was a very interesting. The school was very strict because it's Catholic run, but it
Yeah.
helped build and mold our characters. It was run by German and mostly Austrian sisters, and they were very strict in ensuring that we conform to discipline. I remember in the school, we did not even carry a lot of junk food. We were restricted to 2 packets of biscuits, one, and it was even, they would state, half a kilo of maybe margarine or jam.
Yeah.
And that's built a lot of, when you look
Yeah.
at it, it felt like we're in a prison, but it
Yeah.
built a lot of resilience in our upbringing.
Yeah. I have
I
also taught in Catholic schools in girls nativity girls school in Addis, and
Mhm,
I also witnessed firsthand how strict the discipline is.
mhm,
They might not like it, at that time, but most of the students I used to teach, when I met
uh-huh,
them and we start sharing
it,
some of the things from school, they always refer to their work ethic. Everything is
mm,
based and built while
mhm,
during the days, school days in those schools. So it might
mhm.
feel harsh when you live with it, but the kind of impact it would have for the future life is really amazing.
Yeah, we now appreciate what we went through
Mm,
because it built us, and most of the girls that we studied with are in the top jobs in the country
yeah,
because they are people who are hardworking, organized, and all that. But one thing I must say is that growing up, I was a very shy child. I was the kind of child that would not even ask a question in class, primary, high school, and even at the university level, because after I finished high school, I went to the university. I was not the type to even ask a question, mostly shy and fear of the unknown. In fact, most of my friends who meet now, who know me even just from high
it's
school or
really
from
amazing.
they
Yeah,
are very shocked. They tell me, "Hey, you even speak on TV. We
yeah,
can't believe." And often I joke with them and I told them, I realized by keeping quiet doesn't help me because I knew what I was doing. I was performing well, but
yeah.
had so much fear of expressing myself, even as far back as the university. But even before I went to the university, there was almost 1.5 year wait. So my father by this time had moved. He was working with the Magadi Soda Company. It's
Hmm.
found in Lake Magadi. It's one of those soda
Okay,
lakes where
corporations.
they were
Yeah.
mining
Mm.
soda. By then it was owned by a British corporation called Brannan Mond,
Hmm.
but now is owned by Tata Chemicals. So
Hmm.
when my father was already there, so I went there for a holiday, and I remember I got malaria, and maybe it was the first time I was getting very bad malaria. I went to the hospital. When I was at the hospital, I remember the lady who was serving. She was a Muslim lady, so I had to go back for a review. And then I asked her, by the way, can I get a job here? She was like, yeah, you just apply, bring your application and give to the doctor. Because it was a small community, about 5,000 people. So I
Yeah.
applied. So the doctor called me and asked me, what kind of job do you want? Do you want to do nursing? I was like, I'm not sure, but I can help. And so I remember the first opening that opened was in the kitchen, and I was to support in cooking for the patients. And I did that. Then one time the doctor told me, I'm going to theater. Do you want to come and see what we do? So I went, and I wasn't very amused. It was, I think, a cesarean section, and I
Yeah.
have fear for the blood. So that helped me made as additional medicine and
Yeah.
things to do with nursing I cannot do. So I just decided. So I worked in the kitchen for a while, cooking for patients, preparing. I reached a point I'd be left alone. One time I was left alone because the two people who used to work in the kitchen are not available, and I was able to cook meals because I'd been shown make breakfast, make lunch, make dinner for the patients. Staying with my father, he had a house there. Eventually, I think I moved to the records department. The records department was when a patient comes in, you remove
You
you
fill all the
remove the
information.
file.
Yeah.
A lot of it was manual, but there was would later do it in Excel. In fact, I learned my computer skills there because the head records officer would show me later. So pick the manual cards or fill one, then send the patients to the doctor. Then when they come back in the evening, I file the documents, and that was
Yeah.
very interesting because I was earning money, but of course I was young. A lot of it was about clothes, getting myself. It wasn't that much
Of course.
money. It was about $100 or 120. It wasn't that bad for a young
It's
girl.
not that yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I stayed there until I went to the university.
Yeah. So you
Within
were
that
doing
year,
this while you are also going to school.
no.
Okay.
There was a time
There
lag
was a gap.
before going to the public university,
Oh,
almost
yeah,
a
yeah.
year and
Oh,
eight
a year and a
months.
half. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was seeing like I got myself a job, and at one point I remember there was I would also get even small jobs like in the when you were having the elections. I would get jobs with the electoral commission. I would be taken to very far places.
To
I even
observe.
did census. I was a
Hmm.
clerk to do census. I learned Maasai because the area is Maasai. So at least I learned how to ask a patient, what's your name? What's your age? Where do you come from? So I remember one
Uh,
time this man comes and tells me, brought my child. How old is the child? It's just a child. So I filled the form child. I didn't check.
yeah.
Later the doctor called me and asked me, this
How
lady
old is it?
is a fully grown lady and you're saying child. So he told me among the Maasai community, every woman is a child. So
That's right.
ensure you see and try and even estimate the age. So that, so a lot of culture shocks there also because the
It's a
Maasai,
yeah, a huge huge lesson. I mean, so they don't mention the age number. I mean, they just say she's my child.
they don't know, but a woman is a child. Because me, I asked
Uh,
the man, how old? No, it's just a child. So I didn't check.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I
the doctor
understand.
told me you have even to learn how to estimate an age. So I had to learn some few life skills. If you look at someone, can you estimate their age? And then also sometimes the area was we bordered sort of some game reserves and group ranches. You'd
Yeah.
even get people coming in that have been attacked by lions.
Yeah.
And the records office was such in a way you get cards out here. Then at the back office, you go there to receive those who are paying cash. A lot of the
Yeah.
patients were staff because it was a hospital for the staff, but they would take care of people from the community and they would pay
Coming.
a minimum amount. So that gave me a lot of responsibility how to handle money because like on weekends would work Saturday half day.
Yeah.
I would also be forced to do some of the work alone on weekends, but it built a lot of my as I was growing and building. my capacity and
Yeah.
knowledge. At one point, I was given very, very tough responsibilities like um, holding people's records, very sensitive records.
Yeah.
But
The
it showed the trust
information.
that they had, because you see, this is a small community. If that amount records would be given to other people, they would go around leaking
Telling
information
people.
about the
Yeah.
health status of staff or people. But I was handling it and keeping it under lock and key for the doctor. So I left and joined the university, and I pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Sociology, and also did some short courses. I also have a diploma in banking, but I never pursued any banking.
And
And
you're never in a bank.
and then focused on my studies. But even when we were studying, we were looking for side jobs. For example, because I was at the University of Nairobi at the center of the city,
Yeah.
there was a college opposite the university, so we would even get jobs to invigilate exams for college students. So that was very interesting in terms of getting, because as a student, you're looking for just small money to help you move.
Yeah.
After graduation,
But
a job was not.
it's really amazing, when I listen to these stories. One thing that strikes me is even before you join a university, for you to have
Mhm,
that kind of exposure in life, that kind of experience, not so
mhm,
many of us get it. We just finish a school, then jump into university as a young person without really having that experience of even working, interacting with communities, interacting with your bosses, and even handling money. It looks easy, but it will help you become mature. I'm sure you're more matured, more wise than
mhm.
your colleagues in university days and the people who have never seen any kind of work before they joined the university. And even to continue doing that while you are in the university is also really amazing. I mean, to find the time, that self-reliance. You don't want, you know ask people or your parents for money, but while you can do it yourself,
Yeah,
it's a huge
I
skill.
think yes, I think also the bringing up from even the university, from home and school, really helped me. So after graduation, work was not easy to come by. I did some internships with several NGOs in Kenya. One of them was the Center for Governance and Development. I also did an internship with the Consumer Unit and Trust Society of Kenya. So when I was doing and then after internship with the Consumer Unity and Trust Society, Nairobi, I was applying and interact. When I was at CATS, I started interacting with the likes of NGOs like SACDEP, Pelum, would get invited for meetings. I remember one time we were invited for a GMO meeting by SACDEP at SACDEP,
Hmm. Mm.
and I was nominated. That was the first time I was coming around issues of GMO, sustainable agriculture, what we stand for. So I started working on those issues, food security, and all this. And by then, CATS gave me a short contract as a program assistant, project
Hmm.
assistant. When I was there, because now I was part of the networks, there was an advertisement by the Pelum Regional Desk, and they
Hmm.
were looking for an advocacy person.
Hmm.
So I applied, and they said the position will be in Lusaka. So I told my father about it, and my father was like, "Okay, you go for it. I know you're capable." So I applied, and I remember they called us for an interview in Lusaka. I had never been on a plane, so I took actually a bus to the airport. And luckily, I thought of changing some dollars, because then there was what we used to call airport tax. You had to pay it on exit, on entry or
Yeah.
exit. One of the Because the
Yeah.
dollars helped me.
Yeah.
So I went for the interview. There were very strong candidates. One of them was a Kenyan who had been working as a manager with is it Oxfam in the UK? But I did my best. I had done thorough revision.
Yeah.
I think for 2 weeks I was preparing for it, reading and sharpening. So when I came back to Kenya, within 3 weeks I was told, you got the job. So I told my father, he was like, no problem. If you want to go, you can go. So the confidence was good. So I resigned and I left for Lusaka. I worked in Lusaka for almost 4 years. That was a very
But
good
the good
experience.
thing, your Swahili helps you a lot there, I'm sure.
Yes, that helped me, but also I'd always wanted a job where I would travel and see the world. So my position at the Pelum Regional Desk was advocacy and communication officer.
Mm.
It was very enjoyable for me traveling. I had no fears actually. I remember telling my colleagues I need to go shop for my house. It took me some time to get a house. There was a problem with housing in Lusaka because it was like 1 month in the hotel. Finally, I got a house. I was telling my colleagues, now I want to go to downtown to buy things. And they're like, they will rob you from there. I was like, no, this is not like Nairobi. I can survive. But anyway, the driver took me.
Yeah,
I bought a few
if you can
things, settled
survive, if
down.
anyone can survive in Nairobi, they can survive in so,
Yes, I told them it can't be like Nairobi.
yeah, you cannot be intimidated by any.
So I can say that's where I really it really shaped up my skill because I was thrown to the deep end. I'd be told to go to Lesotho, work with Pelum Lesotho, give this prepare for this, give this presentation. Luckily, my job would take me through at least Nairobi every 2-3 months. So I was seeing my family regularly. Like if I'm traveling, take like a day off.
Yeah,
But that is where I really sharpened my skills because I had to step up. I moved from a project assistant. I'm now program officer, advocacy and communication. I'm in
yeah,
charge of 12 countries or are they 10? I think there were 10 then, where Pelham was working. We're organizing these huge meetings. We are doing these presentations. If it's not the CEO that goes, probably myself or other staff. So it really sharpened my skills. It also helped me to interact because the regional desk had people from different countries,
yeah.
interact also with different nationalities, learn different cultures. I remember before I bought a car, one time I
Yeah.
worked late until 11 in the night and I tried to look for a taxi and I would call all the taxis I know and they would tell me, Madam, we have knocked off. We have closed for the day. I had to call a colleague who was a Tanzanian to tell her what I'm going to do. She was like, my goodness. She was an accountant. She told me one time I had to sleep in the office. So I called one taxi guy and I told him, please just come for me. And I resolved I have to buy a car because I cannot operate like this. I almost slept in
Yeah,
the office. But
yeah,
anyway, I worked there for about 4 years.
yeah.
Then the unfortunate thing happened. My father passed on in 2007.
Mm.
When he passed on in 2007, when I came back home, I made a decision that when I came back, my mother was not coping well. Even in that, from 2008, she was not coping well. She looked distressed. I'm the firstborn. So I made a decision that let me go back to working home. This international work is good. It has given me good experience. But now I
Yeah.
need to go back home. So I started looking for a job. And that's when I saw a position opening up with the African Biodiversity Network in Thika. So I came to Thika, interacted with people like Simon. They helped me find a house and all this. But coming to Thika then was like, oh my goodness, Thika. It was
Was it
then
far
more a
really?
village.
Yeah.
It was then more, because every weekend I would never stay in Thika. But after about a year, I stopped going to Nairobi too often. In fact, my friends started asking me, you never come much. I was like, I told them, I've grown up. I don't need
And
to.
you started getting more comfortable,
Yes.
I
So
like Tika.
yeah,
Tika
Thika
was a beautiful city.
it's not too fast, it's not too slow, it's
Yeah.
okay. And it's a good environment to even bring up children. So I worked with the ABN for another maybe 4 years until 2012 when I left. But made a lot of significant stride with the growth of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty, the formative stages of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa.
Yeah.
Already the process had begun with discussions, I think, in Port Elizabeth, but now we had more discussions in Nairobi with the various networks of forming this network of networks, with the likes of 𝘼𝙤𝙬𝙆𝙚𝙤𝙗, 𝘼𝙤𝙤𝙗, Formation,
Yeah.
Pelum Regional, and all this. So I remember having a lot of discussions at the Wangari Maathai Center in Karen. Don't know if you ever came there.
Yeah. The Green Belt movement.
Yes, the Green Belt
Yeah.
movement.
There were
Then,
some cottages that we stayed the whole
yes,
night.
they
Do
had,
they still do that? Yeah. There was a training center, and I remember.
I don't know if they still do that, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't been there since the prof died. So we also came to Ethiopia in having a lot of those consultations. And I
Yeah.
remember even Million taking us to see the president of Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. Yeah. In the
You remember?
palace.
I think you were
Yeah.
there in the palace.
I was there. Yeah.
Finally, we launched AFSA at the Durban COP. I think that must have been 2010. Was it
Yeah.
2010 or 11? At the Durban COP. And it was really a lot of fanfare where we had a lot of people very interested, this new network of networks, Pan-African networks, and all this. We were there with Million and a lot of the network members, did a lot of side events and the launch.
Yeah.
And later we had a lot of consultation. There was a meeting in Techiman in 2012, still part of building AFSA. Million
Yeah.
by then was coming in. He had just finished his studies. Then in 2012, I took a break. I got a baby. I took a break. I even left the ABN.
Yeah.
After some time, I got bored. So it's actually Makanya who called me and told me, what are you doing at home? Why don't you come and become Kenya Biodiversity Coalition coordinator? I was like, oh, that's interesting. So we had interviews. I topped the interviews. And the Kenya Biodiversity Coalition was a loose coalition. So one of my
Yeah.
mandates was to register Kenya Biodiversity Coalition. When we went to register, we had to change the name to the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. And from 2014, 2013, I've remained the coordinator of the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya.
BIBA
Even before
Kenya.
joining,
Yeah.
before joining, when I was at the ABN, I would support
The
the
coalition.
KBLC,
Yeah.
the coalition in the campaign against GMOs. Remember,
Yeah.
even when I went to Pelum, we were very big on the campaign against GMOs. So I
Yeah.
had built my skills. When I was there, we had made a lot of networks with the likes of ACB, Maria Mayet, and she ensured
Yeah.
that all those activists or advocacy people who are working on genetically engineered crops were getting trained. There was then a program that was run by the Norwegian government or Norwegian, one of those agencies, where I would go to Norway for 3 weeks to learn about GMOs, going to the labs, going to where. I remember that really opened up to understand what exactly are GMOs, because we even had lab work. I
Wow.
remember that
Where was
time
the training?
in Ginok in Norway at a town called Tromsø.
Yeah. Wow.
Those trainings stopped after some years, but a lot of the activists that you see now got trained there. So when I came now, because I was supporting the campaign in Kenya in the Loose Coalition, KBLC, eventually we put in a lot of effort. Now we were able to fundraise and get money to establish KBLC, which later became BIBA Kenya. And that's when
Yeah.
I came in. And we have been fighting this campaign. In 2010 was very significant when we got the moratorium
Yeah.
with the demonstrations in Nairobi. I remember there was a lot of pressure in that time period, and
Yeah.
we
It
held
was a huge.
demonstrations in Nairobi and got a moratorium which was lifted in 2012, but we've gone to court.
Yeah.
So there's still no GMOs, but the pressure is quite a lot. And so
Yeah.
that's now helped me continue with my work. Over the years, we have moved from just campaign against GMOs, but looking at other false solutions like toxic pesticides, issues of the push for a green revolution in Africa and synthetic fertilizers, a lot of the issues and the false solutions being pushed in Africa. So I've
Yeah.
continued doing that, and I must say, in my previous jobs, I would last a job 4 years, but I think with BIBA Kenya, it has been very interesting. I'm almost clocking 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really amazing. It's so interesting to hear. You started with a big organization.
Mhm.
When you think about it, one of the strongest institution that's working on environment, biodiversity, seed issues. All the critical issues that Pelum raises. You
Mm.
started from really being on the regional level and see how different other countries' activities. So it's like a work practice for you into
Mm.
the environmental advocacy work, activism work. So it's really amazing. Through the journey, that's
Mhm.
how you developed your interest on food sovereignty and agroecology. Can I say on GMOs issues in Africa?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Mm. Yeah, especially now when the agenda of sustainable agriculture was hijacked by industry. Now we came up with agroecology. Unfortunately, now there's a threat of agroecology even being taken up, and we need to be careful because I can say over the years, a lot of the civil society players have matured, including myself.
hmm,
So it's important that we ensure we don't get into similar traps that were done before. Because now you hear people like Agra saying they're promoting agroecology, Rockefeller is promoting agroecology, and all
everybody's
the,
saying yeah,
yes, everyone is saying because it's becoming the in thing. But it is important that we are very deliberate in ensuring that our messaging is quite clear. That's one of the
yeah,
things that I celebrate about AFSA because one of the biggest achievements is that AFSA has been able to publish and publish a lot of publications on what we stand for,
yeah,
what we are promoting. Yeah, and one issue about clarifying the position about or the our definition of agroecology, what it is, what it is not, is very
yeah,
important, which is something that we have discussed with Million, and I think
yeah.
that's something that we are putting in place. But
So
also the
can you share me? I'm sorry to interrupt you. The how does BIBA Kenya become a member? Can you tell us about that journey of BIBA becoming a
mm,
member of AFSA?
mm,
And you can also explain to us a little bit about BIBA Kenya. For people who doesn't know BIBA Kenya.
mm.
Let's give them an opportunity to know more about the organization, what you're actually doing in Kenya now.
Okay, so after AFSA was established and Million became the general coordinator,
Hmm.
we continued with our work, and one significant annual general meeting happened in Nairobi, here at SACTEP, where our offices are. And that is when we applied. I have to remember that year. We applied to become members of AFSA,
Yeah,
and our application was accepted given the history and the work we were doing. And we have continued to be committed members. Another
yeah,
significant stride was in 20, is it 21 when I joined the AFSA board.
yes.
I think
Uh,
2021,
2022.
2022
Yeah,
when I joined the AFSA board. And it showed that we have come almost like, should I say, a full circle. Because when you look at we joined in as a, because we are national coalition, we joined
yeah.
in as a, what do you call it? We are not a core member. We are
Associate
what's it?
members.
Associate members.
Yeah,
But the AFSA realized the importance of even bringing everyone on board, change the
yeah.
constitution to allow that even associate members can become
Can
members of
become a
the
core.
board,
Yeah,
and that is important. So BIBA Kenya is a national coalition in Kenya. working to promote biodiversity and biosafety while keeping Kenyans alert of some of the forceful solutions pushed in Kenya. We have members, we don't have individual members, it's organizations, they're broad range from faith-based organizations, animal welfare networks, farmer organizations, community-based organizations, NGOs, and we have two levels. They are core members and they are also associate members, which are the international
Yeah.
NGOs like ActionAid. So BIBA Kenya, when we started as a loose coalition, we had over 60 members. But now when we came in and started and got registered and started cleaning up and getting everyone committed to pay a membership fees, we had to remove some members who some had folded up, some refused to pay membership fees. And so now we have 47 members. I had to make very drastic decisions to get some out and remain with the serious ones. So we have 47
Yes.
members working all over Kenya. Our current projects are mostly on a campaign against genetically engineered crops.
Yeah.
We have a project on agroecology and seed sovereignty. We also have a campaign against toxic pesticides or toxic agriculture inputs, and also are doing quite a lot on water democracy. Also, together with AFSA, we are doing a lot of research work and campaigning against the push for synthetic fertilizers and inputs by the likes of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. So we're involved in a lot of the campaign and advocacy work to ensure that the voices are heard, because at the end of the day in advocacy, we need to ensure voices are heard. So that has
Yes.
been quite fundamental in our work. We also
Yeah.
belong to other networks apart from the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. We're also members of the African Biodiversity Network. We also sit in the committee for the International Year of Family Farming in Kenya,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Family Farming Movement, and Root to Food also in Kenya. So broadening our networks to ensure that voices and issues are heard the country over has remained very fundamental in our work.
That's amazing. I mean, I also appreciate how, BIBA Kenya is really vocal in terms of even attracting media people to report issues on GMOs in Kenya. That's not really common across Africa. It's one of the strongest voices that's coming out of Nairobi and Kenya, and you're our source of what's really happening and how people are really mobilizing, organizing themselves to fight against GMOs and all other, like you said, all for solutions for climate change, food systems, food. So, which working groups do you participate most in AFSA? I know you're part of the seed working group and the climate working group.
Yeah, we are
uh,
part of the seed working group, the climate working group,
and
and
the seed.
the
Yeah,
citizens working group.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe can you tell us, which some of the areas that you think, AFSA did well, or just to give an idea how, members' participation in different working groups are really making an impact or a change in AFSA's endeavor to promote food sovereignty and agroecology in Africa. Maybe can you, if there is anything that you can share us from your BIBA Kenya's point of view?
I think one of the greatest thing about AFSA is that, and very unique about AFSA, is AFSA works through the working groups, strong working groups, and that ensures that members of AFSA own the projects, own the activities, and that's you don't find that with a lot of organizations. So that if you get like Bridget is coordinating the agroecology for climate action, she's
Yeah,
working with the members of the working group and ensuring that activities are being done at the local level also and in the negotiations. If you look, for example, at the My Food is African campaign, money
campaign.
is
Yeah,
channeled to partners to do campaigning at the local level. Like in Kenya, I think once we have benefited, when we got funds to support our national seed fairs, and that's very significant in ensuring members of AFSA own and are
Yeah.
able to implement. So, like if you meet with someone who's part of a working group, they know what's going on. It's not just about it is Kirubel's activity or it's whose activity. Members are owning the activities and the campaigns. The
Yeah.
fact that AFSA is able to also raise and bring together many organizations in Africa for discussions and all that is very significant because that helps in ensuring that there's a lot of communication, ideas are exchanged, and that's very instrumental because previously it would be very difficult to bring 60,
Mm.
70 people together in one place. But AFSA
Mm.
is able to do that to ensure that the messages get out there. People exchange ideas. Like now, you get a lot of ideas just
Yeah.
going to some of these meetings, and these help in improving the campaigning. Because you have to keep on rebranding and rebuilding yourself every day. Otherwise, you become stagnant, and
Yeah.
if stagnant water starts to smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. This one of the things I really enjoy working with AFSA is how proactive we are in terms of really addressing new and emerging things that are coming to Africa as a solution. We're very
Mhm.
quick reacting to it, or changing the narratives, shaping the narratives, resisting the dominant narratives of industrial agriculture in Africa. So it's a very, very active network, and people like you, we always say, outside its members, to be honest, the works that you do in your respective countries, how respectable organization it is, how powerful organization it is also helping AFSA to become more stronger and stronger.
Mhm.
uh, so can you okay, just to listen to your perspective, can you make a case for agroecology in Africa? Why do you think Africa should promote agroecology or transition into agroecology for as a solution for hunger or food insecurity, to tackle social justice issues? Can you give us your perspective on why really Africa should go for agroecology?
One thing I want to mention is that Africa, for hundreds of years, was practicing agroecology. It may not have been called that, but in the last 50, 60 years is when, during colonization and post colonization, many
Mm.
of the African countries were told to produce, you have to use synthetic fertilizers, you have to spray, not realizing that with agroecology, what we practiced before, we were able to manage the pests and the diseases because of the kind of agriculture you're practicing mix. Because when you do um, industrial agriculture, it's about monocultures, it's not about diversity, it's about the multinationals benefiting from selling seed, selling the fertilizer, selling the pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. We are promoting a transition to agroecology because we believe that with agroecology, and we have seen examples with agroecology, communities are able to be more resilient, especially in the face of climate change and other adversities that we continue to face.
Yeah.
Agroecology promotes diversification and therefore nutrition, improves for communities, and it promotes ownership of seeds, farmer managed seed systems, which protect farmers, and they're able to um, multiply their resilient seeds and able to grow a variety for better nutrition and food security. And
Yeah.
so a transition to agroecology is very fundamental to ensuring food sovereignty in Africa.
Mhm.
We are seeing successes at small level because government has not put in enough resources to support that transition. And that's why BIBA Kenya, even with other civil society in Kenya, are working
Yeah.
on a national agroecology strategy in the country. But
Mhm.
also at the county level, in different counties, we are supporting the development of the agroecology strategies and policies. Murang'a County in Kenya is the first one who in 2023 launched the first agroecology policy in the country. It's become a model agroecology
Yes, a
council.
blueprint. Yeah.
It's a blueprint. But other counties that we're supporting include Makueni, West Pokot, and even Bungoma. And other civil society in Kenya are supporting. We're having efforts in Laikipia, in Vihiga, in Busia, and many other counties, Kajiado, where we are promoting that transition. And when you sit down and talk to leaders, they agree. The main challenge is that the capture of the multinationals, because the multinationals are interested in changing, for example, our seed laws so that they can be able to control the seed. Once you control the seed, you control the food, because you'll always buy that seed from that manufacturer or that
Yeah.
multinational corporation. Once you buy that seed, you're going to be hooked to even buying genetically engineered crops. Who owns, and they who own it are the multinational corporations. And these certified or genetically engineered seeds are hoodwinked. You have to use fertilizer for them. You have to use this pesticide, this fungicide, this herbicide, and that is really a concern for all of us. If you look at the socio-economic challenges that farmers are going through, you cannot compare a farmer in Africa to a farmer in
Yeah.
Europe who gets subsidies, or in the US. And so the farmers are forced to accept all these false solutions and eventually get hooked or hoodwinked into a dependency, because they say transitioning from conventional industrial agriculture to agroecology takes 2 to 3 years. And so
Yeah.
a farmer, before they are able to break even in 2 or 3 years, that becomes a really big concern, because this farmer is using the resources they make from their farm for food, to sell to take their children to school, sell for healthcare, for clothing, for accommodation, and all that. That is a major concern for us, and that's why we say a transition to agroecology is fundamental in ensuring food sovereignty in Africa and seed sovereignty in Africa, not at the hands of few multinational corporations.
Yeah. On a positive note, I see some changes really even from the government side, not on the top, but at least at the county level, community level,
Mhm.
there are people who are really pushing for agroecology
Mhm.
as a way uh, to ensure food security, their nutritional needs, and even protecting the environment. So,
Mhm.
why do you think it's so difficult to, you know, translate this message to the government people? Why are not they getting it, and what are the challenges to really actually make a very strong case for agroecology to the point where governments are buying it and support all the finance and the resources that we need to transition towards agroecology and ensure food sovereignty in Africa?
I must say it's the
Hmm.
capture of the states and political leaders. If you
Hmm.
look now, like in Kenya, Kenya is in the process of signing a free trade agreement with the US. And from what we hear out there, part of the reason we are keen on lifting the ban, or the government is keen to lift the ban on GMOs, is because the US want to access the seed market and bring in their genetically engineered maize to sell in Africa. So there's capture of the political class, capture of the economics, because these are companies, for example, some of them have very big, like 4 or 5 times profit they make, which is more than the GDP of a country in a year. And so that kind of capture is one of the major issues. They have gone ahead and captured even our national agriculture research center, for example, the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Center. They are putting in
Research.
money, so they're influencing research. They are sponsoring PhDs and master students. So these students come out with that kind of frame. they have been very keen to change. For example, the law, the Seed Act in Kenya, the controversial one, was sponsored by AGRA in its early days. So they sponsored the change of the law and eventually withdrew a lot of the funding that was going through the exchequer. And now, because you have the Seed Act, government follows its policies and its strategies. And so when that is in place, that's when you now start seeing these things happening, because already it has been decided this is the way the agriculture sector development plan is going to happen. And
Yeah.
that's why you see we are very keen to have the national agroecology strategy and the county agriculture policies and strategy, so that that can inform, because government works from its policies and strategies. And so it's very important to avoid this kind of capture. And that's the reason why you see a lot of influences. For example, if you look in Kenya, even uh, the shops that there's at the village level that sell seed, fertilizer, they have
Mm.
been supported. The growth of those have been supported through funding from these multinationals who are very keen to push their agenda. They have the resources and they have the influence politically and economically.
Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining this really in a great depth. The hope that we have is there is also equally a well-informed mass is being created now, who are really resisting these narratives, resisting this corporate capture of African agriculture. What would your message be to African youth? As AFSA, we always wanted to bring the youth energy to the food sovereignty movement, towards pushing agroecology. So, what would your message be for African youth to protect their heritage? Their food heritage, their agricultural heritage, even their identity. Their seed wealth, their seed and biodiversity heritage. So, how are we going to ensure that they are well informed about the richness of what they have and
Mm.
the value of protecting it, and brings them into our movement and become our strong allies to social movements in Africa?
I think that's our fundamental responsibility as the now older generation, because you're
Mm,
looking at a generation that has not seen war. If you look at people older, the ages of my father were born in
mm,
the colonial era. If it's in South Africa, people my age experienced apartheid. But now the younger generation think they have not seen that process of fighting for your rights. And so it's important that we inspire them. And that's why what AFSA is doing with the Youth in Agroecology project is very important, because we need to inspire them, because they are going to be the leaders. Already,
mm.
our generation is looking at retiring. We are planning for our retirement. You need to bring leaders that can read. Unfortunately, some of this generation are not reading. They are internet, iPad children. But it is our responsibility to showcase, and that's why the Youth, 1,000 Youth Conference, the Youth
Cool.
in Agroecology is very important in terms of pushing, learning from our history so that we can move forward and ensure that when we are not here in maybe 50 years or 40 years, or when we retire in 10, 20 years, there are young people that are there that are going to be able to push. And so the youth remain fundamentally key in this. And when you inspire them by showing them the importance of agriculture, agroecology, the transition, then we are assured, excuse me, that they are going
Yeah.
to take this to the next generations.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a great message. One thing, I'm finalizing my questions, and I'm really sorry that I'm keeping you long. I might have only one or two questions now. The
Mhm,
one thing that I really want to pick your mind on is on my Food is African campaign.
mhm,
We can go probably into personal questions. What's your African food? What's your Kenyan favorite food? What are the foods that you grow up with and they
mhm.
still cook? And why do you think that My Food is African campaign is very, very critical for, the food systems transformation agenda that we have in AFSA.
I think the My Food is African campaign is very fundamental in building the popularity of African foods. Because again, we're dealing with a generation that are keen on eating pizza and KFC. But when the My Food is African campaign is very popular, and everyone that comes through it, they're like, okay, my food is African. I grew up eating a variety of meals because I'm a child of the city and interacting with various communities. Like
Yeah.
my community traditionally does not eat fish, and especially the small fish. But my father taught us how to make that small fish. Many people wonder how we know how to make that fish. Our traditional meal is a mixture of maize and peas and potatoes mashed with vegetables, pumpkin leaves. Um, that is one of my favorite. But also those small fish that are called, I think called silver something, but we call them omena. That is one of my favorite. And yams are also very important. Growing up, we may not have loved them so much, but now you realize the significant importance and appreciate them. So, like growing up, and you're like, oh, my mother is making that maize and bean things, you call it githeri, and we'd be so upset. But now I'm the one who
Mm.
cooks and loves eating it. So it's important that apart from the youth, even our children, we continue to show them that you have to appreciate your African foods because they are healthier, more nutritious, and promote them. So the My Food in Africa is African campaign really hits very closely because BIBA Kenya has been chairing the seed fairs. We've been having national seed fairs in the country for the last 2 years. The third
Mm.
one will be this year. So last year, while chairing the seed fair, we brought in issues of culture. The My Food is African, and people were really happy with it, and it resonated very well. And I think that is one area that AFSA has managed, working with the communication experts to support even our campaigning, our messaging. And I
Mm.
think it's something that's really, and it resonates with everyone all over Africa. My food is African. It's not my food is Kenyan. It's my food is African. So whether I'm
Yeah.
in Accra and eating Banku, it's still my
Yeah.
food is African.
Yeah. I still have that, the priceless memories of Cameroon where we all came together and cook our own dishes. And I remember how delicious was the dishes you cook us from Kenya. So thank you for that nice dinner, to be honest. Okay, it's one
Thank
of
you.
my favorite dinners that I had from other
Thank you. That was
countries.
really nice.
Yeah, no, you were
Yeah.
amazing.
Mm.
So I'm finishing my questions. Probably my last question would be, how would you want to be remembered? What would you want your legacy to be? As Anne Maina.
I got a lot of inspiration and inspired even with the late Professor Wangari Maathai
Okay.
and many other leaders, Dr. Tewolde, Sue Edwards, great leaders like Maria Mayet, and they have really inspired us and inspired me in terms of how I move. You need to
Mm.
reinvent yourself. You can be down, but you need to pick yourself up
Lift
and
people.
continue with the campaign. I'd like to be remembered as that lady from Kenya. Even when we did the major demonstrations in 2010, I was still quite young. That girl from Kenya that led to Kenya stopping the importation of GMOs. I would love to be remembered that the place and the role that I played in ensuring we appreciate our food sovereignty in Kenya by various campaigns. And I would also like to be remembered by someone who inspires and brings young people to the campaign and building their capacity to take over as we continue to grow our campaigning and plan for our retirement.
Thank you. Thank you. And okay, we always have a habit of associating our heroes and heroines when it comes to only political struggles, for freedom or something. But for
Mm,
me personally, people who are fighting on behalf of us, on behalf of the community, to
mm,
protect their food, to
mhm.
protect their seeds are my heroes and my heroines, and you're one of them. Because, once they control our food, they control everything.
True.
It's as if we don't have anything. It's really equally losing our identity as an African or as a Kenyan, Ethiopian, Tanzanian, wherever the country is. So I'm so happy to know you, to be inspired by you. I appreciate your work, and the struggle continues. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Yeah,
Thank you
stay
very much.
online. Yeah,
Mm.
I will stop recording, but I want you to